How's it going, everybody? I am DeanoGTO, and today we're going to be looking at the Water Tank 7.0 version of the game. This is a very, very old version of the game, and it's one I can I can very vaguely remember it. I can still remember this crappy garage, and like like little dog house. Like if you're wondering why there's a dog in your garage, whenever you log into the current version of the game, it's because like the wee dog house that's in the standard version of the game at this point, and also, or not standard version, sorry, in the standard garage at this point, and there's also one in the premium version of the garage as well. However, I'm not going to use 250 gold just to show that there for now, because I might wind up buying a couple of premiums just to test those out on this version of the game as well. I'm going to keep that until like the last second. I'll probably do one more video on this here just before it leaves, just to finish off that gold, just to use it. Because if you look here on the store version, or in the store version, on like the store in this version of the game, you can see here that like you can buy things like the BTSV, you can buy things like the Panzer 2J. Yeah, the Panzer 2J is available for gold in this version of the game because reasons. And well, America doesn't really have any interesting premiums at this point in time in the game. Like I guess there's the M4A2E4, but for the most part, the American premiums are kind of boring. You also have things like the Panzer 5.4 as well. I haven't decided like which premiums exactly I want to try out on this version of the game. I'm going to try out ones which I don't usually have access to. So yeah, like it's probably going to wind up being like some very specific vehicles. I haven't decided yet though. So just letting you know how to do that if you were wondering how people were getting access to those vehicles. So you can see here that I have the KV right here. This is the legendary classic KV. This is a tier 5 heavy tank, emphasis on the tier 5 part, with a KV2 turret, a 107mm gun, and if you wanted to, a 152mm gun. But I'll tell you right now as to why I'm using the 107mm. I'd forgotten how much the accuracy system had changed in the game from this point in time to the current point in time. The current accuracy in the game is so much better than it is in this point in the game. It used to be, just to put in context just how bad the accuracy used to be, it used to be possible, it wasn't particularly common, but it used to be possible for your gun to be fully aimed at a target and then your shot to go outside of the aiming reticle. Yet again, it wasn't particularly common, but it was something that could happen, and did happen, and has happened to me a couple of times so far, now that I'm more aware of it, because I've actually got a high FPS and can see what's happening. And I've seen multiple times where my gun has fired and literally the shot has just taken like a right angle turn to the right and just hit like a mound of dirt nowhere near where I was looking. Also, a T-2 is impossible to hit on this version of the game. You literally just cannot hit it. It needs to be driving in a dead straight line or driving to a wall or something for you to hit it, because it's nearly impossible. I'm not joking when I say that. It is nearly impossible to hit. Also, you might be noticing that there's tier 3s in this game, and you might be wondering, well, yeah, but those are artillery. But that's not the worst matchmaking a tier 3 artillery can get. Tier 3 artilleries can meet up to tier 8. I've seen it. I saw an M37 get matched up against a Tiger 2, which was interesting, as you can probably imagine. I just saw like an M37 just firing HE rounds at Tiger 2 and doing like 5 damage. Yeah, it was interesting to say the least. That little tiny gun that thing has just can't do shit to something like that. And also, like, the Tiger P at this point in time is actually better than the Tiger 1. It is definitely better because it has a higher rate of fire on its gun, has actually got a better top speed from what I recall, and has just far superior armor. Like, that tank in this point in time in the game was a monster. It was incredibly strong. But, well, in the current version of the game, it's kind of just lost its touch and has been kind of forgotten. Oh, and this actually reminds me of another thing. I just seen that guy get spotted over there. At this point in time in the game, the view range, like, or sorry, not the view range, the render range indicator was a square for some reason. For some reason, Wargaming made the render range a square rather than a circle. It made no sense whatsoever, and it took them years to change it. It took them a long time to like actually finally change that there, so it wasn't a square anymore. The square makes no sense. Like, why on earth would a view range circle be a square? Or why on earth would you rearrange to be a square instead of a circle? It was just one of those like weird things. Also, like I'd forgotten how different this map used to be. It used to be so much more open. Like I guess some people would probably argue that it was good that it was so open, but where's the cover? What are you supposed to do on this map? Like, well, like there's not really anywhere for you to go really, and also like I don't think it's lag that's making me miss so much. I just think it's just like the game itself is slow to react to whenever I fire the gun. Like, I feel like I have to aim like a second ahead of where I actually want to aim. Now, granted, I think this is run on like a Russian server somewhere. That's probably why the game is a bit weird and it's being kind of random when it comes to shots. But it's just weird to feel and notice. Also, I'm pretty sure over. Okay, let's just repair that and try and get away from this guy. I used the repair kit. Why isn't it? That was weird. I used the repair kit on that and it didn't fix it. Unless I got hit again, I didn't notice it potentially. Ah yes, looks so weird. The IS finished off though. Never mind, tier 5 heavy tanks killed an IS. A tier 7. Yeah, and there's the artillery, and that guy's just gonna perma-track me now because right now. What hit me there? SU-26. What? Oh no, Hummel killed me. Yeah, I think that IS was upset whenever I killed him. Because you just saw that there in the old shot there. Where that guy was not happy. You saw like the red writing like pop up with the IS's name. So yeah, I have no idea what he said there because I can't read Russian. But you can see there that we are winning this game pretty considerably here, like because like we have Tiger P and a KV3 left. Bear in mind, KV3 at this point is a tier 6 heavy, not tier 7. Because the IS-4 is still a tier 9 heavy tank at this point in time in the game. Like the entire Russian heavy tank tree and the German and the German tree just in general as well, got completely reworked at different points in the game. Like you can see here that the KV tier 5 heavy tank with the KV2 turret, then KV3, both the KV3 and the KV1S both lead on to the IS for some reason. Eventually this thing gets moved to tier 7 and the T150 is introduced as a tier 6, then the KV4 gets introduced, then the SD1, then the IS4 tier 10. So this thing just gets moved over there, T10's added in its place. But one thing that's interesting to note about this thing here is this thing uses a 130mm gun with 260 penetration. I don't even remember that. It's so weird to see that. Like 260 penetration, 490 alpha damage on the IS-4. Like I genuinely, like it's been so long, I genuinely cannot remember that time in the game. Like 140 front armor, 140 side armor. The armor on the IS-4 was phenomenal. It was like a god at tier 9. IS-7 was pretty much just as powerful as it's always been, except it had a faster rate of fire than it does in the game at the moment, which is interesting because so does the E100. I mean, I don't remember when this rebalance happened, but I think like I think the E100 has like a 3 run per minute rate of fire or something like that in the game right now, because like whenever you fully equip the crew, like its reload is like just under 17 seconds, and that's with 10% from the rammer, which in fact brings it down to 18 seconds if it's 10%. So then you have the crew skills and stuff come into play, which is like another 5%. Like it's weird to see because apparently this thing's rate of fire used to be like 3.64, and so did the T30s. Both of them used to have 3.64 rate of fire. Just the D100, instead of having 276 penetration, had 235. So it was just a 41 penetration difference for no apparent reason. Also, E100 got better heat rounds than the T30's premium rounds for some reason as well. Also, the T30 was more accurate, just had a slightly longer aiming time, but better gun depression. Because, you know, balancing. Balancing in the game at this point was weird. Also, if you actually look at the E100 as well, you'll see that the silhouette for it looks kind of weird. And the reason why is because at this point in the game, the E100's turret was actually mounted further back. Like, it genuinely was mounted further back than it is in today's game. Also, like this thing used to have better side armor as well. It used to have 130 side armor rather than 120. So it's interesting to see that, like just how different like the game used to be balanced in comparison to what it is now. And actually mentioned in the German heavies as well. You can see the tier 5 and tier 6 are pretty much completely different in this stage of the game. I mean, the Panzer IV had access to the Panther turret with the Panther's L70 gun, which had 138 penetration, I think it was. Let's just double check that. Yeah, 138 penetration, incredible accuracy and aiming time. Let's see, when it comes to the VK3001H, instead of being a tier 5 heavy, that was a tier 6 medium. The VK3601H was a tier 6 medium, had like a 17 horsepower per ton ratio, and had like a 40 km/h top speed with an 88mm L56 gun, with great accuracy, great aiming time, 132 penetration, 220 alpha damage. It's why people didn't used to complain about the 132 penetration in that gun, was because it was always mounted on fast tanks, which could actually make use of the gun. Whereas, as time went on, like the vehicles that could use that gun gradually got slower, and because they were getting slower, it effectively made it more difficult to really use that gun, and that's when people started really complaining about that gun having way too little penetration. And if you look at the Tiger 1 here, you can see that it actually has another engine that it doesn't have normally in the game. This 870 horsepower engine. So this engine here is an engine that was removed from the game as far as I can remember. Like, I feel like you could add this engine back to the Tiger 2, and it wouldn't break the game or anything like that. Like, I honestly feel like you could just give the Tiger 2 the E100s, or not the E100, sorry. I feel like you could give the Tiger 2 the E75's 900 horsepower engine as like a grinding engine, and then give the E75 back as 1200 horsepower engine. Like, I honestly feel you could do that and it wouldn't break the game. Like, back in this point in time, it would have broken the game if they like buffed the speed on the Tiger 1, Tiger 2 and E75 and left them with the same engine power. They would have just broken the game. But because they reduced the engine power along with buffing the speed and traverse speeds, it meant that the game didn't get broken because of it. But I feel like we're now at a point in the game where these things could actually use the engine power boost again. I mean, at this point in time in the game, this thing had a 28 km/h top speed. The E75 had 30, and so did the Tiger 1. I mean, what did the E100 have? I think it had 30? Yeah, 30. So, yeah, you can just see like how different the balancing was in the German tree there. When it comes to the American tree, the changes are pretty obvious. I mean, the T30 is now a tank destroyer, T34 is now a premium heavy, the M103 and the T125 don't even exist yet. And also tier 10 mediums and tank destroyers just don't exist at this point in the game. And also the second line of tank destroyers doesn't exist either, because T30 is still a heavy. And when it comes to the Russians, well, the tier 10 tank destroyers and mediums yet again don't exist. The second line of heavy tanks doesn't exist, and well, the KV is still a thing, so you can really tell how old this version of the game is. And you can also see that from, well, this tank here being still a thing. I mean, it's the classic, like the T50-2. This thing here, at this point in time in the game, was an absolute menace, and it's an absolute pain in the ass to try and do anything to whenever you're fighting at it, at this point. Like, it's way too fast to hit. You cannot hit it for life. And wow, this is the first top tier game I've had in this game in the entire time I've played it so far. This is probably my like 9th or 10th game, and this is the first time I've been top tier. I'm not joking when I say that either. Like, this is the first time I've been top tier. That's actually a pretty significant surprise. Matchmaking, I'm telling you right now, the matchmaking we have in the game right now is a blessing in comparison to what we had back in the day. Like, back at this point in time in the game, the matchmaking was horrendous. Also, I got briefly confused there when I saw Churchill on the enemy team. I was like, what? But yeah, remember Churchill 3s, I think. And that's the reason why why there's a Churchill on the enemy team, because the English tech tree doesn't even exist at this point. So, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, when it comes to things like Wargame could take from this sort of like experiment, which I think is what they're using this for, because that's usually what Wargaming does with their like special events. I mean, the whole reason why I think we get wheeled vehicles eventually into the game was because they tested wheeled vehicles in like a April Fool's event, or like a special like World War I event or something. a couple of years back. I honestly credit that mode entirely for like why we ended up with eventually wheeled vehicles in the game. So I think what they're doing with this here is they're basically just looking for feedback on what people loved about the game at this point in time. I honestly think that's what it is. And honestly, what I think was probably like the best thing about this game at this point was just how active wargaming were when it came to balancing. Because there used to be so much more active when it came to like rebalancing trees, when it came to rebalancing different vehicles that were underperforming. They used to do so much more with just like trying to fix problems with the game. Whereas these days, they'll leave a broken tank in the game for a ridiculous amount of time before they do anything to it. I mean, look at the Object 430U. How has that thing not been nerfed yet? I have no goddamn clue. But Wargaming has, as far as I can work out, no intention of nerfing it. So I really miss the days when Wargaming would have nerfed that. Like within a couple of patches. I mean, the T-57 Heavy, that thing was broken as hell when it was originally released, and eventually it got nerfed so that it was on par with the MX-50B, just a bit more powerful in certain circumstances. And yeah, that guy backed the hell up. Oh, that's an interesting one. The Martyr 2. That thing used to be like a god. That thing used to be insanely strong as like a tier 3 tank destroyer. It had like 120 penetration, 76.2mm gun. It was incredibly strong. But these days, like, it's kind of mediocre. It used to be just an unbelievably strong vehicle, but it's not quite as good as it once was. Like, it used to be like overwhelmingly strong. It used to have ridiculous view range as well as an incredibly potent gun. So yeah, like that might actually be an interesting vehicle to try out because it used to be so strong. Right, and finish that guy off as well there. There's also kind of like a delayed reaction in the game sometimes whenever you fire your gun, and you're just wondering like, did I kill that guy? And you eventually hear the voice command say like, yeah, you killed him. I think it's better that they definitely like reduce the number of like dialogue options for that there and just say like enemy armor destroyed or something like that there, because that it's just far more convenient than having to wait for it for like a second or two for it to actually respond and say like, oh yeah, you killed that guy, because it's kind of slow at this point in this version of the game. But you can see like there's actually a lot of maps in this game which haven't actually changed by that much, just as physics give the maps more options. I feel like that M3 Lee might try and just rush down that hill, but it's not gonna work. Like at this point in the game, like there are no physics, which means if you tried to like rush down that hill, it would just stop you. You can't drive off this hill as an example. I would show you, but I'm getting shot at here. Like if I was to try and drive off that hill, it wouldn't let me. It would just stop me. Also, this is as far as I can zoom in too. I physically can't zoom in any further than that, which makes it really awkward to try and aim. Pretty sure the average, yeah, 300 alpha. I'm going to try and head back towards the base. Also, the pinging noise is very annoying. Yeah, you can just see how god damn it. You can just see how accurate the guns are whenever you fire them too. Also, like, it's so annoying. Like, you see, whenever you try to like rotate the tank, whenever you rotate it, what happens is the turret moves with it, and because it moves with it, it like really throws off your aim, makes the tanks like really hard to try and aim your shots. It's actually really awkward and actually really annoying. I'd forgotten how irritating that was whenever I originally played the game. Like, it took them ages to add something to actually fix that. But I'm really glad they did, because it really improved the usability of the game. Like, made it a lot more interesting to play. And also, I think we're gonna lose this to Cap. Yeah, T50 just killed the M3 Lee there. And because I'm in like one of the most powerful tier 5s, they're not gonna stop capping. Why would they? Yeah, didn't hit anything. Yeah, so they capped that out in 1. It makes sense. Like I would have capped that out as well. Let's see, so I damaged a bunch of people and destroyed a bunch of people. So yeah, guess I did okay there. Not very much XP. Jesus, they were really stingy with XP at this point in the game. Like, they were just like, nope, you're not getting any XP for that. Like, I'm not sure if that's just because it's like this version of the game, like this like special version of the game, or if the game was actually that stingy with XP. I actually can't remember. But yeah, I'm gonna finish this off because it's on 1337 XP, and that's just an interesting number to see. So yeah, I'm gonna leave this one off here. Let me know what you guys think of this version of the test server. I highly recommend you actually download this and try it out because they fixed the issue which was happening with the first day. Because like whenever you tried it in the first day, the game pretty much just wouldn't work. It would just like say like, oh, there was an error when you tried to log in, which wouldn't let you in. But I recommend everybody like tries this out because it's only like a 4 GB game client, and it just allows you to just quickly download a game. Like you can play a few rounds on it just to see what it's like and just see how different the game used to be. Um, but honestly, like things that I would say like Wargaming can take away from this here to try and like improve the current game is be more active in the balancing, be more active in like changing like the maps around, like rebalancing the maps from time to time. Because I actually really loved that about the game back in the day. They would just continuously rework maps all the time, and I thought that was great because it just made the game feel always fresh and always different. Whereas I think things become too stagnant um, with the current version of the game, where things just remain the same for far too long. I love the constant change in the game, like in the past, like just currently, just constantly adapting like the changes the Wargame would make to the game, like the way they would rebalance vehicles, the way they would change things in the tech tree. Um, I really like that, but I understand a lot of people didn't. But personally, like that would be something I would actually wouldn't mind seeing come back. And yeah, so pretty much just to summarize, like Wargame being more active in balancing of like maps and of tanks. And the second thing, I honestly think, like, if this was actually a thing, I don't remember because I never actually used premium rounds or gold rounds at this point in time in this particular version of the game because I never put money into the game at this point. Um, but if gold rounds were limited in the past, I'd be highly appreciative of Wargaming if they brought that back, because limiting gold rounds I think was probably the easiest solution to like fixing gold spam, but for some reason Wargaming decided never to do that there, and I think that would have been a great thing to do because like if you look here, if I click this, bring this down to 0, bring this down to 0, if I try and add more than 5 gold rounds, it doesn't let me. It physically stops me. It doesn't let me add any more. Like if I try and type in like 10, it limits it to 5. If that was a thing at the point in time whenever this game was originally brought out, then I would 100% love them to bring that back. Because I think that would fix a lot of the issues in the game at the moment. But for some reason, like that was a thing that was apparently in this version of the game, but it's never brought back for some reason. I'll probably do one more video on this version of the game before it leaves, and I'll buy a premium version of the garage if I can at that point, just so I can show you what it looks like and what it's actually like, just so you can see the differences. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this video in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.